Awesome. Welcome to Good Muscle Hustle Radio. I am here with my next guest, Kiani. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate your time. Let's just give everybody, who you are, what you do, and what you got going on.
Well, first off, you kind of threw it out there. My name's Kiani. I'm here. I'm actually located in Olathe, Kansas. I operate my business out of Leawood, Kansas. So a little ways away from headquarters there, but that's self. I've been in the fitness industry, a personal trainer for right around 10 years now total. Started out where most people start out at a commercial gym. 24-hour fitness was where I started at. I was there for about 2.5 years before I decided to take my business independent. And just from there, it kind of just grew. I've been to multiple different facilities just to try to find my perfect fit. And I've been where I currently am now since 2018. So this seems like it's home. So yeah, man, I've been doing this for a while. I would be lying if I told you I knew I would be doing this. I didn't think I was going to be doing this. It was just like your typical kind of cliche story, athlete wanting to still, kind of be an athlete and work with people that want to get in shape. And to be completely honest, it was the easiest thing to get into right after school that my degree let me do. Before I originally wanted to be a firefighter. So I thought I wanted to jump into the academy and go to school for that. And it only took me a month to be a personal trainer and know like, hey, I like this a lot. So it was cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. That's
Fashion.
crazy. That's awesome. Um, so yeah, so you kind of went into how you got started. Let's see. How about I'm curious, how was your experience in those first 2 years at the 24-hour fitness? How was that whole like commercial environment for you?
You know what? It was fun the first year or so. I had some cool mentors under my belt as far as like, who I shadowed there. They had been with the company itself for years. I want to say the master trainer that was on staff with us there probably was there for 20 years. So I got to shadow him for most of my time when it comes to that. And it was one of those things where I quickly knew that, and this may be bad to say, that some of those people that are there are just kind of just going with emotions. Even though he was there for 20 years, I mean, I can just tell that he just found a consistent rhythm, to retain clients. And, he was very prideful in the hours that he worked, and that was it, and you can tell he took only certain types of clients, and that was it. And I knew quickly after shadowing him for, a little over a month that I didn't want to be that kind of trainer. I wanted to be able to operate and work with everyone from, kids to, young adults to, the elderly. If I could help anyone reach any type of goal, I was going to, do what I had to do to retain that type of client. So that kind of took for me to really dig deep and understand people individually, because I was 24 years old when I started, and I had no experience with not only training other people, but training lifestyle client, like general population people. Like I just was an athlete. And so I knew how to make, for example, a kid probably faster, it, relatively stronger. And even at that time, I was nowhere near strong. I just was in shape. So, yeah, it was an eye opener. You're in those corporate gyms and you see all types of people. Pretty funny. You get the average or the consistent gym goers that are in the mornings, those 5 o'clock hours to about 7. You're like, okay, these people are committed. They're here on time, all the time. They're rolling. And then you get the mid-morning people that are just like, they can come on their lunch breaks. So they're just trying to quickly get in and out. And then you work with people that are in the afternoon, and that's just like peak time. and you're just like, holy crap, this is just like a big social group out here.
Yeah.
Talk to everyone and see their high school, or just got off work, so they want to gossip about how sucky work was. Funny, and you're forced to walk the floor when you're a trainer at those type of gyms, right? To go out, meet, bring in clients, see if you can get any leads, work the front desk, checking people in, saying hi and saying the byes, and it's funny, right? And it also put a lot of stress on you as a person trying to build some type of business, because you're not clocked in or on the clock making any money unless you're actually actively on the floor or making cold calls, like things like that. If you're not, you're forced to clock out. So I just was like, how does a person live off this? And luckily I was, young and didn't have much responsibility. I'm 2 kids in now. I'm like, oh, so it was interesting. I did like it. I cherish every experience, good or bad, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Cool. But after 2.5 years, I had serviced a lot of sessions, just because I was really ambitious, and I had the best retention with clients, always coming back. And, I was top sales, for months and months, master trainer before my second year, just session service. So I knew that I had a pretty cool future with this. Clients were telling me, hey, the reason why I went independent in the first place is because a client firsthand told me, like, hey, I'd much rather, pay you individually and not give them anything. And, you take your services somewhere else, even if it's at my house. So what 24 hours is was I went to train that person at their house every, afternoon. And that was my foot in, out the door to say, hey, I think I can do this. But of course, it's always scary when it's just a thought and you haven't done it. You're like, how am I supposed to do this? Like,
Yeah. What would you say in that more corporate environment? Like, what was your biggest challenge, like getting things going for you?
you know what? It's one of the biggest challenge that I found in the beginning, and the number one thing I worried about leaving was, how am I going to constantly generate clients? Because 24-hour fitness would hand you people, or there's a long list of people that are interested in inquiring and training. So you just make those calls. You either have a good conversation, you get them in, or they're like, stop calling me. You called me 50 times. So that was the first thing I thought of, was like, leaving the gym setting, and not having clients fed to me. Like, how am I going to, branch out, network, marketing, and all that stuff to get people in? And that was not my expertise. My major in college was exercise science and a minor in coaching. I knew nothing about business itself. And what I can say I took away from 24-hour fitness itself was just the general idea of the business of personal training and how to operate that in some way, shape, or form. Scheduling, holding people accountable when it came to that. Knowing how you wanted a system of invoices and things coming, all those things, right? Like the nitpicky things corporate America takes you through. And that's what I can say I really got from it, was, meeting all types of people and being able to relate and conversate with, not just one specific type of person, but also just the business of personal training, and, how I knew I wanted to kind of start it up. But the scariest part was, taking that step and leaving and saying, oh crap, like, one, am I going to get in trouble for taking clients with, or probably, so how am I going to get away with this right now? And luckily I started a different job at a school district to just be kind of like a para. And then I coached high school kids at that time. So I coached first, and then I later got into football coaching. So once I did a year of that, then I was like, okay, now I think I can, take clients out of there. So I started training, independently. I would train clients at 4 a.m. in the morning, 2 or 3, and then I would shoot to the school to work for 8 hours, and I would shoot back to go coach for 2 hours, and I would shoot back to the gym to train.
Oh my God.
I know, it was 6 hour days. Like
Jeez.
my wife was still fresh in our relationship, and I you how many moods I had, and we bumped heads all the time, and it was like, oh, hang out with me. And I'm like, I want to go sleep. Like, but I quickly knew that training was the one thing I wanted to go 100%. So I gave that school job, just a semester, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just take the leap of faith and do it all 100%. And that summer of 2016, I did, and I was just amazed how fast it grew. Like, just within that, 6, 7, 8 months of the remaining of the year, I was, fully servicing clients, at least up to 30 hours a week already. And
Wow.
not consistent, but, on a good week, I will have 30 hours, and then sometimes it will be 20. It's just getting people or letting them get the experience. And yeah, that's just kind of like the biggest experience.
When you jumped out on your own, did you keep most of the clientele that you were already working with?
I think I took, if I remember, because to believe it or not, I still have those clients today.
Wow.
I left 24 and I left in 15 and I left in 15 and started at a new facility that January of 16. And I still have those clients today that I've had since 13 when I started at 20.
Wow.
So talk about ride or die.
Yeah. That
Time. And I've changed facilities 3 times, and they've kind of time. I'm like,
man.
you must really like me.
I
But
mean, yeah.
I think I only took 3 clients, maybe 4
Wow.
out of the 20 I had there. Just because it's just honest. One, the location I was at just didn't fit the commute for clients. 2, they already had a system of training there and working out there, and it was just easy for their work schedules and livelihood. And 3, it made them nervous. They didn't know how it was going to be. They trusted me, but maybe they just didn't trust themselves too much to stick with it. Like, having that full-fledged gym environment kind of helps some people, right? Like,
Yeah.
People around them working in the private setting, wasn't it? Because I went to private studio after that.
Mm.
So the one-on-one true, like, some people just get anxiety behind. I did a consult with a person just this week, and they've been online coaching with me for months, like 8 months. But the first time they came in facility with me, like, they full on told me, like, I'm having pure anxiety. Like, I'm nervous. And it's empty in here, during mid-morning hours. And,
Wow.
it's people still generate that anxiety of just, having to, one, answer to, the commands of, training and making sure things are, properly going as far as like mechanics and movements. And it makes people nervous. Like, they don't want to let you down or look like they're not doing what they're supposed to do, that you programmed for them for months. So,
Yeah.
like, he's going to see I'm like, no.
Wow. So you basically like went out on your own and then had to build like the whole thing.
And I did that. I do that twice.
Wow.
So I left I was at that new place I transferred to here, before, the ownership we thought was a good friend of ours, and we helped him start opening this facility himself, and quickly found out that money is just how he operated, and he saw that our businesses were growing and kind of flourishing, and so he wanted a piece of that. And when we kind of laid the ground, it was like, hey, that's just not fair. He's like, well, it's either that or the kind of the high road. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to leave.
Yikes.
Yeah, I literally only was able to take half my clientele because, again, I went all the way across town, like, because that was the first place I could find. And yeah, crazy.
Oh yeah, you're set in stone now.
I'm
You
not.
can do it. You can do it over and over again. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Let's see. let's go into with the clients you've helped and everybody that you've worked with. What are a few staples or things that separate the ones that see great results? Um, what do they do well? What are they consistent with? Versus like people that don't tend to see as good of results in your experience.
Um, I would say two things. One, believing in themselves and knowing that they're capable. Because let's be honest, some people kind of sign the dotted line with us and think that, because they signed a dotted line, they're going to get the results instantaneously. They think that just comes with having a trainer. Everyone that has a trainer, or, fit, because that's just how it goes. But no, that's not how it is. They don't believe in themselves. They put all their faith and glory and believing into the trainer, but not into themselves. So they have to understand and believe that they're capable of doing it. That's one. Two, it just themselves accountable. That's it. Being consistent with that accountability is what separates the client from having the consistent success and the client having rarely any success at all. And being honest with themselves too. If I had to add another one, like it's just I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with clients and they would full-fledged try to make me believe that they're doing everything they need to, that they're accounting for everything they're putting in their mouths, like they're not, having these celebratory beverages, more often than they should. They will convince themselves like entirely that I'm doing everything, but the system that I run when it comes to nutrition, I see it all. And I can see if you're kind of, fill in the blanks and not really telling the truth. And it's like, hey, let's be honest with ourselves. We've been doing this for 6 months, let's say, and our results have been stalled for a long time. Why do you think that is? And I pride myself on communication with clients and being able to have those hard conversations. Like it may not be the funnest and it may, make some emotional, but I want them to see and know that I care for them deeper than just the results. Like I want you to, fix these long-term bad habits that you've had and let's fix them, right? Let's make this really a part of make this a lifestyle, like not just a party lifestyle, but your lifestyle so that you feel better consistently. So if I had to say what truly separates, clients having success and not, it's just 100% accountability, communication, and honesty with themselves, not just me, but themselves. Like that's really it.
Yeah. Uh, I love your first thing there of like just believing in yourself because I think that like fundamentally is
Yeah.
a huge piece of the puzzle that people will miss. Like again, like you said, like they sign up and they're like, all right, cool. Like I've got the trainer, like I'm gonna see it. And it's like if you don't believe you can do these things, like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter how hard we work on our ends, like you've got to believe in yourself. I think that's if I mean maybe the most important piece.
I mean, I always just kind of sports is just I just refer everything back to sports. It's like, you can't be a kid that wants to play quarterback, right? And you go in and because you have a quarterback coach, you're gonna just be a quarterback and be legitimate. No, you have to one, do the work consistently, two, listen to what the coach is saying, and three, believe that you can be the starting quarterback or else nothing works. Like you can't just sign up back coach and throw the ball a few times like I'm a quarterback. No, you're not a quarterback. Like you have to get that title as being the quarterback. And one of those things is believing you're capable of it and not just putting it all in the hands of the coach. And I think you probably get this a lot too, is that a lot of people or a lot of clients put a lot of pressure on you to deliver the success for them. And that's just not how it works. I can't tell you, how many times that I've sat here and, had a client that, just kept hitting these roadblocks. And then I find myself blaming myself like, hey, what am I doing wrong that's not helping this person get there? And what can I do to fix it? Like, and I go in these constant battles with myself. Like, am I failing this person? And really, I also have to have that self-talk and say, hey, look, they have to do the work too. And you can't do everything.
Yeah.
have those hard conversations, and then the client really acknowledges it, and they respect you for that, believe it or not. Like they're they're okay with having that tough love, because that tough love is going to get them the results.
Yeah. I was gonna say something else. I had it and it slipped. I know you do in person and you do online. You mentioned online, and you do boot camps as well, right? Correct?
I do a little bit.
Little everything. um, what would you say? I guess how do you do things maybe differently, client to client, from like in person to online, and maybe boot camps could be a completely different thing. Um, where do you see the difference, and how do you personally kind of, because I know like an in-person client, there's kind of a different cadence, to follow with an in-person versus like an online.
Well, you right away assume that a person that wants online coaching has a true reason why they're picking to do that. Either one, they're just not local and they're away, and two, they have the bigger pieces already intact. They just need you to kind of, lay the blueprint for them so they can just follow it. That's majority what online coaching is for me, at least, is providing the tools for them to be successful. Most of my online coaching is, I want to say 85%, maybe not 85% to 90% is nutrition.
Yeah.
As it's just extended that way. The training and the working out isn't the hard part. Most people that work with, want the training, they get in facility with me. So that's kind of what takes the different approach for each of those. But to be honest, when I do get a client that gets 100% nutrition and training, it's one of those things where I try to simulate the same fashion as they would get here in person, right?
Yeah.
It's giving coaching cues. It's, video memos and tutorials if they need them, like things like that. And it's extended work because I'm a one-man show behind this brand. But if I can make their experience as replicated as possible to being here in person, I love it. And I'm in the situation now where like people that are local and they're online coaching with me, it's just because I don't have the availability to get them in. And so some people hop online because it's a way of kind of securing their spot and saying, hey, look, when you do have something, can I slide in there? But honestly, I try to keep the two as similar as possible because I want them to have the full blown training and coaching experience online as people do in person. It's just you're able to hold the person's hand here. You're able to see the level of intensity, right? Like people
Yeah.
fit it entirely way too often. Why am I not getting results? Why am I stalling? Why is this? Well, send me, some of your sets and reps, and then you quickly see like your intensity is just not there. Or to be honest, the people that are in person with me, sometimes they're, like, I just want this. And then I train them and see them trying to take extended breaks, see them trying to kind of talk their way out of it. I'm like, this is like, your level of intensity is just not there. And then, so I do because I don't have a lot of time to train by myself individually, I'll hop in a session with the client. And then they see my level of speed is different, of course, but they're like, God, like I'm dying. I'm like, oh, this is a whole different piece, but this is a general idea of the level of intensity you should have if you want to replicate the results we're having the conversation about weekly.
Yeah.
That's the difference, right? It's like the in-person gives you to see that level of intensity them and say, hey, look, we have to fix this, where online I can't give them that. I just have them send me video memos if they can, or have that honest conversation in writing and explain it all to me. Walk me through your entire week. What does your day look like? How long are you in the gym? Are you able to get through the entire program? If not, why? Like those questions.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest gap on my end as well, is like, in person, it's like I'm there to drive, like, like usually when people will stop, they have about 10, 15 reps left. So in person, it's like, all right, like you've got 10 more. And they're like, wait, what? Like, yeah. And then you take them that far and they're like, oh, like that's what that feels like
Yeah.
versus, being in the online environment. And like, I can tell, I'm like looking at the sets and reps and I'm like, okay, you did all the reps and I was expecting like 8
I
and you
legit,
did all 10 every time.
I legit had a client this morning. Actually, it's funny we're talking about that. I had a client this morning within the first 5 minutes. She's like, how in 5 minutes I'm already dying and sweating my ass off? I'm like, this is the level of intensity it should be, right? This is the load of weight you should have on the bar. And this just comes with a lot of people being conservative for themselves. They're afraid to take that next step, right? To add that extra 5 pounds on the bar or 10 pounds, whatever it may be. They don't trust themselves. Again, like, understand that you are capable. You've been running this program for 6 weeks now. It's time to progress. If we don't progress, we get nowhere. And I'm in here forcing the progress, and I'm like, okay, like this is how I should be. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm learning, as I get a little bit further into the online coaching, is like, I think, as a coach, and this transfers over to like anything in life, but you've got to be able to like reflect and go, okay, how can I do things better to, provide the better experience for those clients to, ultimately, like our job at the end of the day is to produce results for people. So it's like, okay, if things like if there's a gap and like, people aren't getting results or whatever it is, like what am I doing on my end? And so I'm figuring out like, because I've been in person, the last 7 years. So like going into this online environment is in essentially like a skill, just like anything else, just like learning how to do a movement, like it's all skill. So I'm like, okay, I'm understanding like I need to be able to like communicate um the level of exertion needed in like that whole realm with people of like, hey, like a scale 1 to 5 or whatever, like 5 is like you're on the floor dying and 1 is like, man, like that was pretty easy. Like how can I help people understand and change their perception of like what hard is? Because like in person it's easy because I can take people and be like, see, that was a 5, like that's what we need like at this point in the program. And being able to communicate that online is definitely like a skill.
It is. It is. And then it's, when you've been in the industry as long as I have, and I've been operating the online coaching component of my business, probably not super long, but probably the last 3 to 4 years legitimately, is that you find yourself still having to not try to do all the work. So what my advice to you is saying, hey, look, don't get so used to trying to hold the person's hand or forcing it down their throat. They have to figure it out because they're the coach to be able to do this on their own. And I have that conversation too, like all the time. Like some people think, yes, I'm very blessed and fortunate to have people stay with me for 8+ years. But when you first come through the door, my goal is to teach you the mechanics, the fundamentals, the general idea of nutrition enough to where you're able to do this by yourself and you don't need me. Like that's truly your lifestyle now. And I want that. Like my goal is not to keep you stuck here forever. Yes, I'm providing, of course, and I need to consistently have that service or so business goes down the drain. But I want them to be able to do it on their own. And I think that helps me, right?
Yeah.
Because I love and passion in it, outside of just, the money I need to make for the business to keep flowing.
Yeah.
The online realm is a whole different skill. It is. It's a conversation, a whole different intervention with the client to try to really get them to tell you everything, because
Yeah.
people that you get online coaching, you just don't even know personally. So that first, what people don't understand with the whole thing is like that first, 2 to 3 months really is me just trying to understand you, like, and
Yeah.
how function of your body roll nutritionally too. Like you can't just learn somebody nutritional function in 3 months. Like, no, like you got to understand this is a long-term thing. And if you're not, going into it mentally saying, I'm going to commit to this for a year, then it isn't going to work. It won't work.
Yeah. That's gold right there. Cause that's the bit like when, so I really started going, and we had a conversation last year sometime earlier. And so like last year, probably about 6, 7 months ago is when I was like, all right, like I'm really like for real gonna do online stuff. Cause I was, kind of dabbled here and there. And that was the big thing for me online, is like understanding, like they have to have like their part of the responsibility, but also because it is online, I don't get to see you. And like you said, you got to figure this person out, like not only like the nutrition side and all that, but like mentally, like what kind of person this is, so there's like a huge runway. And so like I started doing like a 3 month, like 90 days, and I was like, this is just not like
Hey,
there's no way.
first started, I was like, I do not want any part of this. Like, this is a whole different headache I'm not ready to handle.
Yeah.
If I want to, like, let me just go back to in person. It's much better. I like in person. So that emotion for real, like it's just, yeah, it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
Like I used to catch myself thinking about like, there's these coaches that are 100% online. Like, how do you function entire business online? Like, are you glued to a laptop all day? Like, no.
Yeah, it's just, and I've, already caught myself in that point where I'm like, almost taking too much responsibility for those online people, and I'm having to like hold up, like step back, like on my end, like I'm doing everything that I can, but they have to do XYZ. And if they're not doing that, then yeah, like I can send them a voicemail and say, hey, like these are the things that we need to be doing to, get XYZ. And that's what I do,
Right.
and if they don't get it done, then
It's the same conversations their bosses have at work. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
you can sit behind your desk and do nothing. Like, that's not how it works, and you're not going to get promoted like that you've been asking me for months. Like, that promotion is not coming. It's the same thing, man. It's like, hey, you have those internal battles with yourself. Like, hey, look, I really need to stop, investing so much emotion into this because,
Mhm.
they're not caring. I can. I've had to have those conversations, and now I run a system with my online coaching specifically. Like, if you don't check in for 2 weeks or more, like 2 weeks minimum, then I reach out via, my client portal that I communicate them to, or if I have their personal phone number, I'll text them. And if it takes them a while to message back and they still go another week, I just deactivate their accounts, as bad as that sounds, and say, hey, look, this person never was bought in anyways. And literally 9 times out of 10 times, they acknowledge it. They're just feeling shame because they had one bad week. Just abandon the thing. And I'm like, look, like, that's not how it works. It shouldn't be that way. Like,
Yeah.
don't abandon yourself. You
Yeah.
can't doing this. Like, understand and truly believe you can. And be honest with me and tell me when you're messing up. It's all right to mess up. I don't
Yeah.
expect. I am far from it. So
Yeah.
anything for you. And I try to be as transparent as I can via social media too about that. Like,
Yeah.
here and acting like all my ducks are in a row and that, I eat chicken, rice, and broccoli. I don't want to work out. It happens though, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah. So it's funny. I have to say, I used to find myself chasing clients, chasing them. Like, hey, where you at? Why are you not checking in? And I have to understand, like, by them signing up for online coaching, they invested into that accountability piece that they have to hold themselves to. And I can't do that. I only can do so much. I will do my part in reaching out and communicating in the terms of what we agreed on. But if it requires me to call you on the phone, you're just not going to see me. And then now you're going to look as your investment being wasted. And I've had, a couple of bumps in the road where people were just like, oh, like, he just didn't give me the attention that I needed or wanted. Right. I'm like, no, like that's not how it works. Like, not how the trainer can't do more work than you're willing to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, lay here and expect things to fall in your lap. Like with anything, your health is very important. And I think they miss that piece. Like you understand, if you keep going on this pattern of destruction for yourself, like your health is going to be compromised in a very negative way. And we don't trying to prevent that.
Yeah. I've had multiple, voice memos that I've sent out over the last probably month or so. And I've just been like, hey, like, it's not my job to be judgmental. Like, I want, like, if you mess up, like, hey, I'm not gonna be like, wow, like I need to know that stuff so I can help you, like as your coach. Like my job is not to look at your stuff and go and judge and be any kind of judgmental. Like I look at that and go, okay, how can we improve? How can we help you work through this stuff? But if I don't know, I can't help you at all.
To be honest, man, like Alex, I look for people to tell me more bad than good. Like I look for them to tell me, and that's one of my questions on my weekly check-in is like, pretty much what negative came out of this week and how can we improve on that? Like I want to hear, and I want it very in depth. I don't need the generic bullet form. Like that drives me nuts. And client that hearing this, eventually there'll be other bouts that like, no, I need explanations. And I would ask you to resend that check-in again, because I need to understand. This is why online coaching is a thing. Like I can't coach you appropriately if I don't understand entirely of what's going on, emotionally, good or bad. And that's when us trainers and coaches become therapists, right? Like they start telling you a little bit of the extra things, whether it's family or relationships or, things like that, work problems. And that's okay too, because we're also here to help with stress management and how can control that and navigate that. So I look for way bad than good, and that on my end is I don't care to hear the negative. I want to make sure I can help you through it. And if I don't know anything, I can't help. So therefore I'm thinking everything is, all peaches over here. Like, I see a little bit of weight loss trending. I'm happy. I see macros met, goals set, biofeedback good, like steps on point, like hydration, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. But if there's deeper problems and why, I asked you to answer the, how consistent was your training protocol? And you're like, it wasn't good. And then you just say, it just was a bad week. I'm like, I need you to elaborate on that. Like a bad week and how we can fix it and not replicate this next week. Like, so, yeah.
I think from all that, I mean, to anyone listening that is like starting or maybe thinking about like getting a coach, I think their biggest takeaways would be, if they do hire a coach, like just complete open communication, hoping like you get a good coach that's not going to be like a dickhead, but being completely open with communication with your coach, because like that's what they're there for, is to help you through all that shit. And the consistency behind that, so the adherence of like just doing the little things daily that need to be done, and believing in yourself. I think those are like, boom, I think we hit those on the head.
Just all big pieces and components to having not only success with the client, but a successful business too long term in this industry. It's like, you can't replicate the relationships you build with these people. And, we're driven off of just, pretty much a word of mouth. Yeah, we got Instagram and social media components to network and market ourselves the way we want. But truly, it's all word of mouth. Like experience matters. And If a client sees that, you know, you truly care and put your best foot forward to help a client, they're going to go tell a friend, and a friend's going to tell a friend. And then you got the whole family in here. I mean, I can't tell you how many families I've trained, you know, from his daughter all the way up to the husband. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things to say, hey, look, you know, my brand is more than a brand. And that's why, you know, I, you know, created the mantra and the motto of, you know, Key to Fitness family. You know, we are family. It's not just, you know, a training establishment or just some small business that's just, you know, trying to spit out results. Like, I want you guys to understand that I'm going to care for you as if you're one of my own. And we're going to all become better together. And that's just how it's going to operate.
Love that.
People buy into that, right? They want to be a part of that and want to be, you know, a piece of that puzzle. And but you just got to stick behind that as a coach, and also accountable as if you're, you know, their older sibling or their parents. Like, they have. So yeah.
I love that. So let's we'll switch gears just a teeny bit. Let's go into kind of rewinding back to the beginning, but what did you find was the biggest hurdle getting to where you are now?
Honestly, trying to find balance in all of it, when it comes to family, when it comes to growth with the business, finding different paths to go with the business and where the business should go. Um, Whether I wanted to continue doing online coaching or not, like trying to find things that are going to benefit the brand itself, and how I can better make it replicate, you know, who I am as a person and how it's going to, you know, transpire into that. I think those are kind of my biggest hurdles. If I had to be honest, though, it would be just be balance, like trying to balance all of it. Like, you know, I have a pretty big family now. I get it all family. But even then, like when me and my wife now, but girlfriend then, like when we were dating, it was like, you know, understanding like, hey, I have to do these hard hours of trying to generate clients, and, you know, the expectations of, you know, hey, I may not be there on Saturdays and I may not be there Sundays. Like, just trying to find that balance and giving her time too, right? And now I have two little ones, and now I have to try to find that balance. And, you know, I compete, as you know, too, which
Yeah.
your entire life. It's trying to juggle all that is hard. It's very mentally exhausting. I'm not always the perfect husband, father, and, you know, coach sometimes, like, but that's just me being human, right? I think people respect and appreciate that, you know, the transparency of me trying to balance it all. But now I think I have a better, you know, handle on all of it, as far as the business goes, you know, being, you know, I guess 6 years now, almost 7 years independent, and, you know, 10 years total in the industry. It's like, hey, if you don't got it figured out now, like, figure it out, buddy. Got all these kids, you'll be all right. But yeah, it's a better balance, and just having I pride the support of my wife. Like, it's just like she's been with me through the start into where it is now, and, you know, if it wasn't for her hitting every different avenue of what the business entailed, then I would not be able to do it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
like that is, oh, now I'm a pro athlete at it, so it's beneficial to me financially, but for a long time it was not. And it was just like I was chasing something that, you know, in her eyes probably looked like, like, is it that serious, and can you even get it? And now she's just like, okay, I see, you know, it's something that you love to do, you know, you only can do it in these certain times.
Yeah, shout out to our ladies, man, because I'm 100% there too. You know, I think especially like starting out in the industry, like, I mean, you've got to spend like, even like in the commercial setting, like you've got to be there. you've got to have, members see your face. Like you've got to spend like a ridiculous amount of hours in the beginning, just to build it up. So like, my girlfriend right now, like she's been here from the very beginning and like have seen like just the crazy amount of like hours put in, and I'm like at that same point too, like, okay, making sure like the balance is there. Like when I go home, it's like, all right, I need to turn it off, which doesn't happen every time. Like I'm not perfect at it. But I try to make sure like, all right, I'm walking through this door, like it's her time. I gotta be here, I gotta be present. And there's times like with the gym, like where it's just I've gotta do stuff. So like even when I get home, I'm like still like, going through some shit, but she's been she understands and is 100% like supportive of that. And on my end, like just making sure like, all right, like you have Sunday off, I'm gonna make sure that I take Sunday off and we do our thing and we hang out and we get that time. But yeah, I think balance is a huge thing. And I think like what you said with, like seeing where the business goes and like seeing these other avenues, I think that definitely takes like the self-reflection aspect and being able to be honest with yourself and go, okay, like what's realistic? How can I, leverage my skills and make sure that there is still growth? I think people kind of, get too locked into like one thing and they just burn out. And it's like there's other things we can do, other education we can go into. And, it takes a little bit of like, all right, you got to step back every, whatever, every quarter or whatever, and be like, all right, like, is what I'm doing good in the terms of like, am I happy with what I'm doing? Are my clients happy?
Uh,
Is the growth realistic? And sometimes, those conversations are hard to have with yourself of like, I gotta change this, like this has to happen.
And I mean, sometimes, I mean, again, it's human nature. Is sometimes yourself caught up in and seeing what other people are doing, right? And you're like, maybe I should be doing that.
Yeah.
That all the time in the past is just like, and it took me a while to find out, what makes me authentic of what I do. Like what makes key to fitness, like
Yeah.
different from everyone else. And once you find that, you're right. You just have to lock in on that and, find different avenues to present that to the
Yeah.
public and replicate that in your training, right? Whether that's, you pride yourself on, strength. And if that's what it is, then roll with that. Like
Yep.
that you're catering to that clientele and don't try to put everyone through that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, guys in the industry that are just like full blown power lifters and that's all they do. Right. And then they get these clients, these, general pop clients, and they try to put them through those ringers and I see them deadlifting the earth. And I'm just like, why? Like, are you trying to get them ready for a competition? Is that something they want to do? And then next thing you know, they're not around anymore. Why? 9 times out of 10, they probably got hurt. Like it's something that you have to really invest your time in understanding people.
Yeah.
Like understanding people and avoiding these hurdles that you can get into by being authentic with your brand and never shying away from that and trying to be like someone else because it doesn't work. It doesn't.
Yep.
You for a reason, your brand is what it is because you wanted it to be that way. And to avoid these hurdles, it's trying to really make sure that your brand replicates what you envision and nothing else.
Yeah. And off that same thing, like if you can be authentic with who you are and understand like the things that you do really well and understand the things that you don't do well, and maybe those are like skills you need to work on, but if you can be authentic and leverage what you do really well, I mean, that's the ticket. Like as soon as you try and start either being a person you're not, or especially with social media now, like trying to like push something that you really don't understand or you don't even like inside you don't care about anyways, like it just doesn't work and you end up fucking just dried up. Like you got to stay authentic. Like you got to enjoy everything you do because especially with this industry and like everything else too, like there's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of things that you need to be doing. So if you're authentic and you really care about what you're doing, it becomes so much easier to just continue to do those things.
I agree 100%.
Okay, real fast before we end, let's to two coaches. We kind of touched on this already here, but two coaches and trainers getting started. What is something that you wish you would have been told or taught in the beginning?
I guess to be authentic would be one, to be honest. Because again, where I started at 24 Hour Fitness, it was a business driven off of replicating what the next guy, the upper guy, did because he was producing, right? He was bringing in the most revenue every month when we had sales meetings, and understanding that it's not 100% about the sales, right? But yeah, like just trying to, what somebody told me in the beginning, to not really replicate what's going on, right? And just try to really find your niche in it and roll with it that way. Because if you do, then you're going to get in this never-ending spiral of always trying to do what the next guy did to just be on top. And it took me, months to figure that out because I was just trying to get my feet ahead of me in the industry when it came to being in the corporate gym. And I quickly found that didn't work. Luckily, I had the instinct to do that, right? I'm like, this is not me organic at all. Like,
Yeah.
I want to train people like this in this fashion, and I don't think they're going to gravitate to me that way. And once I went my own path, then that's when everyone started to come towards me. And then those guys that were the top dogs weren't feeling like the top dogs anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone was asking me but I'm like, I don't know. I'm just I've only been here for a year yet. Like, so I'll just like people that just having that charisma when it comes to training and not really giving people a chance, I think is one of them, right? It's because again, being in corporate America and training that way, they're looking for the high ticket client. And that's the point of where I knew I didn't want to be there, is because I would have people that were extremely obese, have no true functionality of their body. So, but the price point of training at the facility was too high, so they couldn't do it. And that left the desk. I just couldn't help them in any way because they couldn't afford it. And I knew right then and there, I'm like, I can't do this. I want to be able to help everyone, no matter what it is. But this place isn't allowing me to, and I have to run the systems they run. I wish someone brought that to my attention sooner, that I would run into those things. It really kind of messed me up that first year. I found myself really trying to just find the high ticket client because we needed to meet numbers, and it just was so consumed by that. I love the most about being independent and my own, boss, is that I don't have to answer to anybody with that. My brand, thrives or falls under me if I don't do the work happen. I like having that control. Probably the reason why I don't have anybody hired with my business yet. I don't know. Eventually. But I just love having the relationships I have. And people inquire to the business, they inquire, seeing my face there. And I don't have a team of people. So I just love that and energy they bring to the gym and the relationships we have. And I couldn't have enough mentors and coaches tell me that, because they were just all flawed and trying to make the most they could. And I didn't, it's hard for me to answer those kind of questions because I didn't really have mentors. I didn't really have coaches leading me in the right direction. The first experience I had at my first facility with a guy who I thought was a mentor of mine, and I looked up to him because he was crushing training in the industry and had the best clients ever, high ticketed, and had his own facility, you know, and would preach to me how many hours he worked and how much he made, all this. And I'm like, nah, like I want to be able to function like that to provide for my family. And, you know, at the end of the day, he didn't care about me at all. He was just from underneath me. And the process of growth my business was having, because he didn't like that it was starting to overshadow his, you know, and that's, I guess, my experience with mentors and coaches were flawed after that.
Yeah.
After that. So I found myself really just navigating in the direction I wanted to, taking what some people said. All like, I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
how can I really trust you? Like,
Yeah.
But this is where social media and YouTube and stuff help, is like, there's so many people out there giving out content like this. And so I just literally absorbed as much information as I could in every avenue of the business. And, you know, I can say I follow some accounts that, you know, I feel like I know them as people, and that they have taught me a lot of what I do for my brand. And if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have that. So there's a benefit there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I kind of the same thing, man, for me. Like I started in, it wasn't a box gym, you know, Emporia Fitness is just a privately owned gym. So I was, you know, basically built the business with no understanding of how to really do anything. It was just, you know, I was in there and I started training, and I went to Kansas City in 19 and had the whole corporate experience, which is kind of the same experience that you're talking about, like having the sales meeting and just feeling like we're just running people through this thing. And, you know, there are a few people that I still am in touch with that, you know, genuinely cared about people. And then there were, again, like those master trainers that are just like, you know, they don't even care about you at all. And
And that's why, like, I have a hard time now even working out at those type of facilities.
yeah,
Like, I love when I come to Emporia to see family, I go to yours. It's just so like community driven, and just I just can't, like, I can't go to places. I mean, I can't go to those. Like, just so it's toxic to me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but again, like even you mentioned, the corporate environment did teach me like how to actually run a business. So upon leaving, I was like, oh, like this is how you actually, you know, schedule sessions and, you know, do all that stuff. So that I took that away. But yeah, in the same boat, like I was like, this is like a sour taste in my mouth. And it's just, it is what it is.
I didn't like the kind of person you had to be in order to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's just, I can't. I'd rather, you know, go out and fail a million times than do this. And you weren't making too much money there anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
From you, let's be honest. I'm just like, sometimes I think back on that, I'm just like, God, these companies are just like,
Yeah,
trainers feel like they have no hope, and that's why they don't last long.
yeah.
I have a buddy that I literally worked with at 24 back when I did, and he's still in corporate fitness now. You know, Lifetime is where he's at, but it's like, I know he hasn't, and I know he's very capable of being super successful. I worked for years, and I just afraid of taking that step, because they make like you can't succeed unless you're here. They do. They pretty much, you cannot succeed if you walk out these doors. There's no way.
Yeah.
And then they have these non-compete, you know, things, and then they make it impossible for you to even get clients, because they won't let you start off where you left off with the ones you had.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and I get it, but it's just sucks.
Yeah.
Sucky situation. So
Yeah.
we're in that top 1% that's doing what
Yeah, and it works, man. Like we both, you know, have the same, you know, the same thing, being authentic, doing what we wanted to do. And I mean, it works. It does take a lot of work to do it, but I think the end result is so much more fulfilling
Yeah, it
what
is.
we get to do.
Really is.
Yeah.
All the stress is worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. We're about 11:31, man. I don't want to steal too much of your day. I appreciate you, man, for
I
getting
know.
on here. This is great, man. I'll send you um a notification when I get all this stuff put out there.
Perfect.
Right on, man. Thank you so much, dude.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Have a great rest of your day, brother. Thanks, bro.